Now we're in Ash Lake. We're going to kill the seven-headed serpent. You've already killed one of these guys before out in the Darkroot Basin, I think it was. And this one's a lot stronger than the last one. And I have a pretty weak weapon at this point. Eventually, I'm going to be upgrading to the Lightning Uchigatana, which is... So do you remember very early on in my other profile, I accidentally killed that merchant at the very start?
Yeah.
And I end up killing him in this game to get the weapon that he drops. Because there's like another merchant that didn't show up for me in this game that would sell the item to me if I wanted it. But it ends up being like a really good sword that you can use for practically the rest of the game. And I edit out a lot of fighting this boss. It's an extremely easy boss to kill because if you stay close enough to it, you can block all of his attacks, and he's pretty slow, but he's got a ton of health, so I end up just cutting out the time to save on, instead of having it be a 25-minute video, it's only a 9-minute video.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll put more info about the Lightning Uchigatana in the notes on the site if you're using the guide. So anyway, if you haven't fought this guy before, all you're doing is just try to stay close enough to him that his attacks, that he does this melee attack that you can block. If you're too far away from him, he will spit, like what he does right here. Oh, I think he does. He spits like ice blasts at you that you can sometimes block, and I don't know. It's weird. And just chop away at his neck when he stabs the ground. And he drops a dragon scale. And there's a couple other dragon scales scattered throughout this whole thing. Like, I think there's 3 other dragon scales, which are actually really hard items to come by.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. This game is nuts. What else is there to say about it?
You were talking about the best sword.
Oh, the best sword, the Lightning Uchigatana. The best melee games. So I was trying to think, like, there's not a lot of really good melee combat
where
games.
You're hacking at stuff.
Right, when you're using a sword and a shield.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than, like, Street Fighter or fighting games, you versus computer style 3D action.
It's usually a gun.
Right, yeah, like almost every game is a gun. So I was just trying to think of what the competition is. I mean, there's Skyrim,
Zelda,
Oblivion, God of War, which God of War is I'd say God of War is towards the top of the list because there is actually like countering and different weapons you can use and upgrade and stuff like that, and like knowing how to pull off the good combos and what combos to use, like on Titan difficulty, God of War is up there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually quite a bit of difficult timing in God of War, which is one of the reasons that I think it's up there on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Zelda? Yeah, I guess Zelda.
I mean, with the new one with Wii Motion Plus.
Oh, that's true. I haven't played that yet.
Sword fighting is actually like, 1-to-1 sword fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's not really like you're sword fighting people.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like you're learning the pattern.
Well, that's exactly what this is.
And then which direction. Like, are you going to go diagonal up, down, or a straight down hack?
So, quick note, these guys, if you're looking for Twinkling Titanite, these guys are good to farm. There's a much better place to farm these clams, these bearded clams later in the game, where there's like 7 of them in one large group. And Twinkling Titanite's used for upgrading some of the better armor and weapons and stuff like that in the game. So it can be important to get if you're planning on doing new game pluses and stuff.
Are you?
No, just because Skyrim has got me hooked. And I'm not planning on playing a lot of this game anymore. I was, as I was doing this playthrough, but Skyrim, I can't break free.
Yeah.
It's too good. And like Skyrim, its combat's bad. It's not fun. I mean, it's kind of fun. It's fun being a bow and arrow dude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think melee combat's fun at all.
Mm-hmm.
Magic stuff might be fun, but melee is atrocious compared to the combat in this game.
Mm-hmm. Just because it doesn't work right?
You mean Skyrim?
Yeah.
Because it's so simple and it's kind of dumb. Like there's no real advanced nature to it at all. I mean, it's block or power strike, and that's about it. You know, there's
And what's this game?
this game when you're okay. Well, it's more than just what you can do. It's what the enemies can do in Skyrim. What do enemies do in Skyrim? They
Use magic.
they run up to you
yeah.
and then they melee you,
Uh-huh.
and you. And
Some
that's
use
it.
magic. Occasionally they use magic.
Right, like there's right, or a bow and arrow or something like that. But still, you end up just sprinting up to them. But like
This is more of a...
this is much more advanced. There's so many different types of enemies. Like see how much health that guy just
It's like
did right there.
bullfighting. Toro, I
Right,
gotcha.
yeah.
I dance it this
Like
way.
a little
I
poke,
dance
a
it
little
that
poke.
way.
Like you keep stabbing.
Yeah, I
little-
do a nice spin.
Right.
I say, fuck you, bull.
I say, fuck you. Like in this, there's so many different speeds of enemies. Like so many different. Like every melee enemy in Skyrim
It's the same.
does the exact same thing. You know,
Yeah.
there might be 2 melee enemies at the same time, but in this, like you have, crazy bosses and stuff like that have insane attack patterns that switch between melee and ranged magic. You know.
Yeah,
And
bosses.
in this, like,
Yeah.
okay, so you got the blocking, you have the whole stamina management, which there is stamina in Skyrim, but it's
you
not
rarely run out of
nearly
it.
this, like, it's not nearly as important as this.
And like there's this Skyrim and Zelda. This new one added stamina. The only time it ever comes into play is when you're running across sand, that sink sand,
Oh,
and it's like it never comes into play in combat.
yeah. So, yeah, and in this, it ends up being kind of a bigger thing towards the end of the game. Like, I really started experimenting with it for the final boss. There are these cool parry moves that you
Now,
can
did you have to do that crazy move? Like
just
you were like
fall?
shimming on like
Yeah.
an invisible wall.
Yeah, that was kind of screwy. Like, I just wanted to show where this miracle was.
Oh.
Like, because you had to fall down there. Like, you had to kind of take that almost leap of faith to get there. So up ahead, there's going to be a dragon you can talk to. You can join his covenant and get that achievement. And you can also cut off the tail of the dragon to get the what is it called? The Dragon Greatsword, which there's a really good chance you won't be able to equip it because it has very high stat requirements. And it so like normally when you attack an NPC, you piss them off and they like, you break the covenant or they start to try to kill you or whatever. This guy, not at all. You can't kill this guy as far as I can tell. And you just have to attack his tail once or twice and his tail falls off and you get a great sword, which is kind of cool. So we'll talk more about melee combat games in the next video.